Did you know that one of the greatest love stories in fantasy literature is between an 87-year-old man and a 2,197-year-old woman? And almost nobody questions it. Welcome to Beyond the Page. I'm Mike Peterson. And tonight, we're going to look at J.R.R. Tolkien's The Lord of the Rings. Not for the battles, the magic, or the adventure, but for the ideas hidden beneath the story. Because when you look closely, Tolkien may have been talking about a lot more than elves and wizards and a ring of power. Now, many people have read Tolkien's books or watched the film adaptations. Most see a story of good and evil, courage and fear, friendship and sacrifice. They see magic, epic battles, and a quest to save a world that is literally on the brink of destruction. But hidden within that story, honestly, is one of the greatest love stories ever written in fantasy. And it's the story of Aragon and Arwen. What's fascinating to me is that Tolkien wrote these books between 1939 and 1949, during a very different period in history. Yet, when you look beneath the surface, Aragon and Arwen challenge some of the assumptions people often make about relationships. Aragon is a human. Arwen is an elf. In the world Tolkien created, they are literally two different races, yet readers rarely focus on that. Instead, they focus on the love, loyalty, and sacrifice shared between them. Why? Because Tolkien places love at the center of the story. The difference becomes secondary. Then there's the question of age. Most people don't realize that Aragorn is 87 years old during the events of The Lord of the Rings. Arwen, however, is more than 2,000 years old. Think about that for just a moment. If we looked only at the numbers, many people would immediately raise questions. Yet, when reading the story, almost nobody does. Once again, Tolkien directs our attention away from the differences and toward the bond between the characters. Whether Tolkien intended it as commentary or not, the relationship invites us to consider an interesting question. How often do we judge relationships, people, or situations based on labels and appearance, while overlooking the deeper qualities that really honestly matter? Perhaps that's one of the reasons Aragon and Arwen continue to resonate with readers generations later. Beneath the fantasy, beneath the elves and kingdoms and ancient magic, Tolkien reminds us of something profoundly human. Love often will ask us to see beyond the categories that divide us. There's another layer to Tolkien's work that often goes unnoticed by readers who are focused more on the adventure. Many people see Gandalf as a wizard. They see the staff and the magic and the battles. Yet Tolkien presents him as something far more significant. Now, during the confrontation with the Balrog in the mines of Moria, Gandalf declares himself to be a servant of the secret fire. It's a curious phrase, and one that points to something greater than magic. Gandalf is not acting on his own authority. He serves a higher purpose. Then comes his greatest test. He faces the Balrog, falls into darkness, and dies. Yet his story doesn't end there. When Gandalf returns as Gandalf the White, he explains that he passed beyond death and was sent back, not because he chose to return, but because his task was not yet complete. That idea always fascinated me. In many ways, Gandalf resembles what religious traditions would call an angelic messenger, a being sent to guide and encourage and warn and to help others in a purpose greater than themselves. He never seeks a throne. He never seeks power for its own sake. His role is to help others become who they're meant to be. Now, whether Tolkien intended readers to see Gandalf as an angelic figure or not, the parallels are difficult to ignore. And once again, Tolkien does something remarkable. He wraps a profound spiritual idea inside an adventure story. Most readers remember the battle with the Balrog, and many remember Gandalf's return. But beneath those events lies a deeper question. What if some people enter our lives, not to lead us, but to guide us toward becoming who we were meant to be? Perhaps that is why Gandalf continues to resonate with readers generations later. Beneath the wizard's robes and the fireworks is a figure who reminds us that wisdom, guidance, sacrifice, and service may be among the most powerful forces in any story and in life itself. And perhaps that is Tolkien's greatest achievement. On the surface, he gave us a fantasy story filled with hobbits and elves and dwarves and wizards and dark lords and ancient kingdoms and epic battles between good and evil. But beneath that surface, he was exploring ideas that have mattered to people for thousands of years. Love beyond differences, sacrifice for a greater cause, the struggle between power and responsibility, faith in something greater than ourselves, guidance from those who help us become who we were meant to be. The remarkable thing is that Tolkien rarely stood on a soapbox and announced these ideas directly. Instead, he wrapped them in adventure, wonder, and imagination. The fantasy became the camouflage. The story became the vehicle. And because of that, readers were free to discover those deeper truths for themselves. That, I believe, is one of the reasons The Lord of the Rings continues to hit people generation after generation. People may arrive for the adventure, But they stay because the story is speaking to something deeper within them. And we've only scratched the surface. We haven't talked about Tolkien's exploration of power through the One Ring. We haven't discussed friendship, loyalty, courage, corruption, redemption, destiny, free will, or the countless other things woven throughout Middle-earth. There's so much more hidden beyond the page, but we'll save those discoveries for another time. Until then, I'm Mike Peterson, and this has been Beyond the Page. I'll see you next time.